The dark secret behind greatness, what it always demands from you. We all admire greatness. Whether it's the genius of a scientist, the heart of a revolutionary, the discipline of an Olympic athlete, or the relentless generosity of someone changing lives like I try to do in my own way, there's something magnetic about people who rise above the ordinary. But here's what nobody talks about, and I mean nobody. Greatness always demands something from you, something dark, something hidden, something you won't understand until you're too far in to turn back. We see the polished results, the records broken, the world-changing inventions, the viral videos, the awards, the applause. But rarely do we ask, what was the cost? What did they have to give up, to break, to lose, in order to stand where they do now? Let me take you somewhere uncomfortable. Because this isn't a feel-good story, this is a philosophical autopsy of what greatness actually requires. And I'm not talking about working hard or staying focused. That's surface-level advice. I'm talking about the deep, existential toll. The kind of sacrifice that doesn't show up in highlight reels. The kind that leaves you wondering if you even recognize yourself anymore. Here's the first dark truth. To become great, you must betray something. Often that betrayal is yourself. You'll betray your comfort, your peace, your former identity. You'll let go of friends who no longer understand your obsession. You'll miss birthdays, events, even moments of beauty, because the pursuit demands your total attention. And the question that haunts every great person I've ever met is this: was it worth it?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
We don't talk about how lonely greatness is. And I don't mean loneliness in the sense of being without people, I mean the existential kind. The kind of solitude that comes when no one truly understands what you're building. When everyone thinks you're crazy, or too intense, or obsessed. You might be surrounded by millions online, or thousands in person, and still feel utterly alone because nobody sees what you see. That level of vision isolates you. And here's the twist: if you're not willing to be misunderstood, even hated, you'll never touch greatness. I read that again. If the fear of rejection limits you, you're chained to mediocrity. Greatness requires that you endure being seen as wrong, delusional, or even dangerous until the results speak so loudly that no one can ignore you anymore. But there's a deeper layer still, one that most people never reach because they stop too early. They burn out or break down before they get here. It's the point where the thing you love, the passion that drove you, turns into the thing that consumes you. You started because you loved painting, or writing, or helping people, or solving problems. But when greatness becomes the goal, when identity fuses with output, you no longer know where the work ends and you begin. You lose the innocence that once gave it meaning. Suddenly, you're not painting for joy, you're painting to be the best. You're not filming to express, you're filming to outperform. And the dark question arises: what happens when the thing that gave you life becomes the thing draining it? I felt this. I've lived this. There were nights where I sat staring at the screen, wondering if any of it mattered anymore. I've had moments where I gave away millions to help others and still felt hollow inside because I wasn't sure if it was enough, if it ever would be. That's another secret. Greatness doesn't end with arrival. There is no finish line. You always ask, what's next? Because the mind that builds greatness is wired for more. And that's both a blessing and a curse. You'll never be fully satisfied. You'll always sense the gap between what you've done and what's still possible. And if you're not careful, that gap becomes your prison. Here's a question for you. If you could achieve your ultimate goal, but had to sacrifice your peace of mind to get it, would you still pursue it? And think about that. Because that's the real scenario most great people face. We live in a culture that worships success, but rarely explores the internal cost. We love the hero's journey, but we skip the part where the hero loses themselves along the way. We want to be great, but we don't want to suffer. And that's the contradiction. You can't separate them. Every great person I know has suffered. They've endured rejection, heartbreak, exhaustion, and existential doubt. And they kept going anyway. Not because they were fearless, but because their purpose was bigger than their pain. So now I ask you, what are you willing to give up to become great? Are you prepared to be misunderstood, to walk alone, to doubt yourself over and over again? Are you willing to trade comfort for obsession, to risk failure in front of everyone you know, to give more than you take sometimes without any guarantee of reward? Because that's the price. And if you're not willing to pay it, that's okay. But you should know the truth. Greatness isn't a gift, it's a trade. It's not something you're born with, it's something you bleed for. And if that doesn't scare you, you haven't thought deeply enough yet. The obsession paradox, why love for the craft, slowly turns into a hunger that devours you. At the beginning, it's all love. Pure, unfiltered passion. You find something, maybe it's music, writing, science, storytelling, and it lights a fire in you that feels divine. It doesn't even feel like work. You do it for free. You do it for free. You lose track of time. You stay up late, not because you're grinding, but because you're alive. You feel like you've found your calling. And in those early days, you believe that passion alone is enough. That if you love it deeply and work hard, the world will eventually notice. There's a kind of innocence to that belief, almost romantic. But here's the paradox: the deeper you go into your craft, the more that love starts to morph. Slowly, subtly, it becomes something else. It becomes need. At some point, you stop doing it just because you love it. You start doing it because you have to. Because now there are expectations. People are watching, maybe even depending on you. The stakes are higher. You've tasted a glimpse of success, and now, without realizing it, you're afraid of losing it. And that fear of slipping, of becoming irrelevant, of not being enough begins to infect your passion. This is the turning point most people never talk about. You start to chase numbers, results, recognition. The art becomes a performance. The process becomes a pressure cooker. And here's the most dangerous shift: your identity fuses with your output. You're no longer just someone who does the work. You are the work. If it fails, you feel like a failure. You don't notice it at first. It creeps in like a shadow. You still say you're doing it for the love, but late at night, when you're alone with your thoughts, you wonder, why am I still pushing so hard? Who am I trying to prove this to? We call it hustle or grind, but often it's just fear in disguise. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of not mattering. Fear that if you stop, even for a moment, the whole thing will collapse. And that's when the obsession begins. Not the healthy kind fueled by love, but the darker kind powered by insecurity. You no longer create to express, you create to survive. and that shift eats away at your soul, piece by piece. I felt it. I've lived it. There are moments where I'm surrounded by millions of views, millions of smiles, and yet I feel numb. Not because I don't care, but because I've become trapped in the machine I built. Every new project needs to be bigger, better, more impactful. Every success raises the bar. And I wonder what happens when I can't top myself anymore. Will people still care? Will I still care? That's the silent anxiety that lives inside obsession. It tells you that what you did yesterday doesn't matter. Only what you do next does. And when that becomes your mindset, you're never truly present. You're always chasing, always behind, always haunted by the feeling that you're not doing enough. And yet, we glorify this. We praise the sleepless nights, the 100-hour weeks, the never-stop mentality. We turn obsession into a badge of honor. But here's the hard truth. Obsession, unchecked, is a form of self-abandonment. It's sacrificing your health, your relationships, your peace, in the name of an ideal that might never love you back. So I ask you, at what point does dedication become self-destruction? Where's the line between passion and poison? And more importantly, are you even aware when you've crossed it? Think about the people you admire, the legends, the icons, the visionaries. How many of them died young? How many spoke of feeling empty at the top? How many warned us, this isn't what you think it is, only for us to ignore them and chase the same path anyway? We treat their warnings like poetry instead of prophecy. We romanticize their pain, but what if we actually listened? What if we asked a different question, not just how to become great, but how to stay whole while doing it? Because the great irony is this: the very thing that makes you extraordinary can also destroy you if you're not careful. The love for your craft can turn into a cage. The hunger for mastery can become an addiction. And the more successful you become, the harder it is to stop. Why? Because now people expect it from you. They've attached your identity to your output. And this is where it gets truly terrifying. If you ever try to slow down to rest, to breathe, it feels like betrayal. Betrayal to your audience, betrayal to your brand, even betrayal to yourself. So what do? How do you keep the fire without letting it burn you down? That's the question only you can answer. But here's what I've learned: there is a way. It starts with remembering why you started, with redefining success, not as constant growth, but as sustained joy. It means choosing presence over performance, depth over speed, fulfillment over fame. And above all, it means protecting your humanity in a world that rewards only output. Because in the end, greatness that costs you your soul isn't greatness, it's a tragedy. And the world doesn't need more tragic geniuses. It needs people who can be brilliant and whole, who can build empires without losing themselves in the process, who can love the work without becoming enslaved by it. The dark secret behind greatness, what it always demands from you. There's a moment, and it comes for everyone chasing greatness, when the internal compass starts to shift. At first, you were driven by something pure: curiosity, joy, a sense of purpose. You created because you had to, not for fame, not for applause, but because it felt like breathing. But as the world begins to notice, something begins to change quietly, almost imperceptibly. But people start clapping, they start watching, they start expecting, and without realizing it, the applause becomes addictive, and the praise becomes fuel. The numbers become mirrors, and the compass that once pointed inward now spins toward the crowd. This is the invisible prison of validation, and once you're in it, it's hard to find your way out. Here's the truth no one wants to admit: validation feels amazing. It feels like proof. Proof that you matter. Proof that the late nights weren't wasted. Proof that someone out there sees you. And for a while, it's everything you ever wanted. But here's where the trap begins. The moment you start needing that validation to feel worthy, you've lost control. You're no longer creating from a place of freedom, you're performing from a place of insecurity. You become a prisoner to algorithms, to audience feedback, to social metrics that tell you who you are and how valuable you've become. And slowly, your identity starts to hinge on things you can't control. The likes, the shares, the trends, the applause. You wake up one day and realize you're no longer building your dream, you're maintaining a perception. You're curating a version of yourself that the world approves of. You're chasing approval instead of truth. And the scariest part, you might not even know it's happening, because the prison is made of gold. People congratulate you. They say you're on fire. They say you're inspiring, but they don't see the fear behind your eyes. The fear that if you stop, you'll be forgotten. That if you speak your real thoughts, you'll be cancelled. That if you fail, even for a second, the love will disappear. This is why so many great people spiral. Not because they weren't strong, but because they tied their self-worth to external things. Because they built castles on sand. It's why fame is often followed by breakdown. Why success doesn't cure insecurity, it amplifies it. Because the more you're seen, the more you fear being seen falling. And so you hide behind the brand, behind perfection, behind the mask of being on all the time. But every mask you wear distances you from yourself. And eventually you forget who you were before the world started clapping. I've been there. I've had videos go viral beyond what I imagined. I've seen people cry from the things we do. And yet, I've also felt empty after the biggest wins. Why? Because no number, no metric, no comment section can fill the hole left behind when you abandon your inner voice. That's the dark irony. The more you seek validation from others, the less you validate yourself. And eventually you start creating for them not because you believe in something, but because you're afraid of what happens if you don't deliver. This is the part where I need to ask you something real. Who are you when no one's watching? When no one's liking, sharing, or commenting, do you still believe in what you're doing? Would you still speak your truth if no one clapped? Or has the crowd become your compass? These aren't easy questions. But if you don't ask them, you'll spend your life performing a version of yourself that was never meant to be the main character. And here's something even darker. The world loves to build up heroes, but it loves even more to watch them fall. The same people who praise you today will question you tomorrow. Their love is conditional, and their support is fleeting. And if you build your identity on their approval, you're building a time bomb. It's only a matter of time before it explodes. So you must decide now, who are you when the lights go out? Who are you when the applause fades, when the feed goes quiet, when you're alone with your reflection? True greatness isn't about being seen. It's about being real. It's about doing what matters even when no one's paying attention. It's about holding onto your soul while the world tries to buy it. And if you don't make that choice consciously, you'll make it by default. You'll wake up years later, exhausted, disillusioned, and wondering when you stop being you. So protect your voice. Protect your why. Use the applause, but don't depend on it. Let the praise in, but don't let it define you. Because when greatness is tied to validation, it's not greatness, it's performance art. And performance might get you fame, but it won't give you peace. Only truth can do that. Only alignment can offer that kind of freedom. So ask yourself, do you want to be admired, or do you want to be authentic? Because they're not always the same thing. The final trade, why the highest form of greatness is often paid with the deepest form of loss. At the end of the road, the real end, beyond the milestones, the awards, the global recognition, there's something most people never talk about. It's the final trade, the one sacrifice that cannot be undone. You see, every step toward greatness has a cost, and as you climb higher, the currency becomes more profound. It's not just time or energy anymore. It's not even relationships or mental health. It's something deeper, more existential. You begin to realize that greatness, in its highest form, demands a piece of your humanity. And once you give it, you don't get it back. Why does this happen? Because the pursuit of something extraordinary requires you to focus your entire being onto a single point. It requires tunnel vision. It demands that you become one-dimensional, not because you want to be, but because anything less than total devotion feels like betrayal to the mission. And in doing so, you begin to lose the parts of yourself that once made you whole. The spontaneity, the softness, the stillness. You sacrifice them, bit by bit, believing it's a fair trade for impact, for legacy, for meaning. But then one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back. That's the final loss, yourself. And here's the paradox: you might be more respected than ever, more admired, more powerful. You might have changed millions of lives. But inside you feel hollow, not broken, just absent. Because you gave everything to the world and forgot to leave something for yourself. People will say you're lucky, that you're living the dream. But they don't see the toll. They don't see the nights you lay awake, wondering if the person you once were still exists somewhere beneath the ambition. They don't see the conversations you missed, the moments you skipped, the inner voice you silenced, all in service of something greater. So the question becomes, was it worth it? And here's the brutal truth: there is no universal answer. For some, it absolutely is. For others, the regret is unbearable. But it all depends on whether the greatness you pursued was truly yours, or if it was someone else's idea of success. Did you climb the right mountain? Or did you get to the summit only to realize it was never yours to begin with? That's why reflection is everything. Because if you're not checking in with yourself constantly, you'll arrive at a destination you never truly chose. You'll become a monument to achievement, but a mystery to yourself. So before you chase greatness, ask, what am I willing to trade? And more importantly, what am I not willing to lose? Because once you cross that final threshold, once you give that last piece of yourself away, there's no going back. And the world might applaud you for it, but only you will know what it really cost.